welcome to the fourth episode of the CUTS Adda today. Adda in Hindi means conversation. And we are here to talk about the much awaited 5G mobile technology in India. Joining us today, we have an eminent expert, Dr. Arogyaswami Paulraj, Professor Emeritus Stanford University, US, and chair of the Government of India's steering committee of the high-level forum for 5G. Welcome, Dr. Paulraj. Dr. Paulraj, for the benefit of our viewers, could you please explain in brief as to what is 5G, how will it be different from the presently available technologies such as 4G or 3G, and what new use cases will it unlock for businesses and consumers, especially in an Indian context?
Sure. So 2G was the first to come to India, and that was purely voice system. 3G was also fundamentally voice, but brought a little bit of data. So you could do email, for example, on your BlackBerry phones. 4G was a very different technology. It went from what is called circuit switch to packet switch. It was very much like a data network, and introduced some new technology called MIMO. And it became fundamentally a data network, high-speed data. And 4G today in the US typically gives you about 35 to 40 megabits per second downloads, uploads 20 megabits per second. So you can do a lot of things, including streaming, movies we want to. While in India, I think the numbers are lower. I think there's download speeds around 6 megabits per second, up about 2 megabits, depending on where you are, but those are the average. So 4G was fundamentally a user in a cell phone, smartphone centric data delivery system, which gave you internet access. So voice became a really small part of it, but video and all the internet, email and everything became available on the phone. So that was a huge revolution, and 4G launched a lot of new applications. You can do a lot of things on smartphones, including hailing cabs and doing banking and everything else. So 4G was a really very revolutionary technology by providing internet access, high-speed internet access to phones. 5G does a little bit more of that. So it's another G in the sense that the speeds now go up from let's say what is today in US 35, 40 megabits, it'll go to 500, 600 megabits per second.
Oh.
The peak will actually be as much as 20 gigabit per second peak, but that's only peak. But consumer thing can go up to 400, 500 megabits per second. So at that speeds, you actually are way beyond what you need for video streaming and things like that. But it'll bring in some new applications for consumers like AR and VR, augmented reality and virtual reality. The idea there is that it can create, you have to wear those goggles now over your head. That may not happen. But assuming you're prepared to wear those goggles, then of course it can create a reality around you, or it can merge the outside reality with the inside reality. And that's the kind of vision for personal applications.
Thank you.
But the much bigger part of 5G is really the other things. It's going to bring in two new technologies. So one is, it's what we call as IoT. IoT has been going on for some time. It's not fully taken off, but 5G will have better ability to support IoT. So what will happen is everything from buildings to cars to motorcycles to lampposts will all be on the network. Tens of thousands such devices per square kilometer. So it will allow us to manage, monitor these things much better. The other part of 5G, the third technology, is called ultra reliable low latency. So typically I'll explain low latency. In a phone today, if you ping, that means if you sort of send a request to a machine on the network, by the time you get a response back, it's about 30 to 40 milliseconds. And you really, if you want, for example, to remotely drive a car, let's assume you have a car which you want remotely driven. So you have lots of video feed coming back, and you can go back and you can control the, you're sitting at home, but you have your pedals for brakes and your steering wheel. Well, that round trip latency in order to run that car safely is 1 millisecond. So it's much higher, much better tolerance is needed. So 5G supports that. So it's got low latency features. And that will make many things. Wherever human beings are operating remote machinery, you need that 1 millisecond. That's how the brain and our arms work.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paulraj. It was a pleasure speaking with you today and getting your valuable insights, not only on 5G in India, but the whole optimistic for 5G's rollout in India and the timeline as we discussed, subject to many of these things taking place.